So, I mean, technically you could build a machine to reference everything, but they're generally too big and use way too many atoms, and you run out of atoms before you get to the end of the universe. So anyway, we have lots and lots of these things. And some of us have /40s, /48s, /64s. /64 have less IP addresses than a /40. I've got a /40 at home. Horrible, horrible thing. That gives me 128 minus 40 addresses. So 2 to the 88 addresses for my home network. I might run out one day. I'm not quite sure how. Most people end up with something like a 2 to the 64. That's just, oh, you're pitiful. You're like the lowest of the low, really slow connection. Your phone only deserves to have that. Yeah. Guess what? How many of these do you think we can do? Remember, 2 to the 32 current internet, 4.3 billion. And you can go, 4 billion by 4 billion. No, but it's not quite like that, because 2 to the 33 is 8.6 billion. Big numbers get really big quickly. So when we get to this 2 to the 64 bit, it's more than you're going to need. Multicast, more than you'll need. Everything on this, more than you'll need. If I have machines on, say, an ISP network, and I've got that as my sort of base range, and let's say there's 1,000 machines on that network at the time being. How long do you think it's going to take to port scan the network and come back and tell me every machine on that network? No, it's not security by obscurity. It's economic security by there's no fucking way you're going to ever do this. If you're sitting there and you're port scanning and you're doing 100 machines a second, which is quite fast, 1 million machines a second, which is unbelievably fast, and no computer on Earth does that, then you're still not going to port scan this in the Earth, age of the Earth, till it gets swallowed by the sun. You won't be finished. But I also guarantee sometime before then, I'll probably turn my machine off. Generally do that once every millennium or two. So we have lots of these things. We have lots of everything else. We have lots of ranges. We also don't care. There's a little bit in the white paper. It says nodes can come and go at will, trusting the proof of work of the other nodes while they're gone, blah, blah, blah. But if you can sign up and hit multicast and be part of that network, are you coming and going at will? If I'm a node sending traffic, and there's a defined multicast group that any of you can join, and I can't stop you. Think about this for a moment. What can I do to interfere with you? No? Not thinking? There are things I could do. I could hack the ISP. I could go around and I could take out the global peering system. I mean, if you look at the one in California, there are permanent stations of Marines, big guys with guns. Terribly hard, but if you manage to get yourself a surface-to-surface missile, you could probably take it out. Maybe, then get shot. In Britain, we're lucky. It's a little nondescript concrete box that no one looks at, right next to a cafe on the seashore, where people go and tourists do things every year, and no one knows it's even there. And no one even protects it because, well, we're British, so no one gives a... Strangely enough, people try and do things to the American one and get arrested all the time, but no one does anything to the British one. What's that say? So, back to this. We have lots of IP addresses, we have lots of multicast. What can we now do? Think about this. We've got these guys. They can come and go. We can also set up other things where if a node doesn't get traffic, he can get traffic. So let's remove this one for a second. I mentioned anycast. Who remembers what that means? What did I say it does? Speak up. Topologically closest. So if we have this little planet thing, and we've got, I'm not even going to try and draw them correct, got, ugliest things ever. I gave a shit on the weekend because doing geography, I have to actually try and put some effort into drawing a map at the moment, but I'm not going to right now. So anyway, we've got this little peering station over there, and we've got cables over here, and we've got some guy up there in South Park, Canada land, where they've got little flip-top heads. And he wants a bit of information. And we've got another node over there and another one down there, and maybe chuck one into South Africa too, South America. Tell me what happens with anycast. We've sent one out and it's gone everywhere. Canadian guy wants to get a copy. He pulls up, says, I haven't got this. What do you think anycast now means? Where do you think he goes and gets traffic? Everywhere? No? Yeah, so we got this American node there, nice and quick. Works out nice and easy. So we have lots of people right now around the world talk about like government issues. How do I know my node is servicing my people? How do I know that the Americans aren't interfering with my Saudi thing? Or how do I know that ... Well, if you set up one in your country down here, it's going to not go there. It will go closest. That means as long as there's a node somewhere near your country or in your country, your citizens get served by your node. But you can also trust your node. Why? Because we've got that little funny hash thing. So we know that no one has manipulated it anywhere. So we have both points of view. Anycast then basically sets up the equivalent of unicast after we've done this. After we have sent the packet, now that we have decided where it's going to go from, then it basically streams down as it needs to stream down. So our network's nice and easy. Why do you think miners are going to spend money to put in these big bandwidth networks that will end up servicing a whole lot of people? When do miners get paid? Yeah, you have to build 100 deep. So as a miner, can you jump in, take your money, and piss off? No. You have to keep servicing people, and you have to have other people build upon your block, or you don't get paid. That incentivizes you to actually care. So I want the network to send me transactions, and I want to send you blocks, and I want to make sure that all this keeps happening so that I get paid. I want the exchanges to have my block, so I get paid. Now, in this little model here, where we have our distributed network, and we have a fixed set of IP addresses for multicast. So we have MIP1, MIP2, MIP3. And basically, these will go between them. This is a very simplistic way of looking at it. We can do it far more complex than that. But each node, whether it's N1, N2, N3, sends into that. When they send into that little pool of addressing, do they care who it gets to? So, although there's nothing related to censorship resistance in Bitcoin, it doesn't say anything in the white paper, what we have is resilient distribution. Do I choose who I send to? If that's an open multicast group and anyone in the world can join up, do I get to say no? I don't, actually. Do any of the other nodes get to go, I want to send to everyone but this node because I don't like him? He wears suits. Yeah. So that sort of works, doesn't it? Now, think about this too. Luke, for instance, Mega Jedi from BTC Core. I mean, yeah, everyone knows Luke. If you don't, you should. He's really fun. I mean, he's one of the best comedians in BTC Core. Works really well at his comedy. But he has a blacklist. His node doesn't send out to certain other machines, which actually does shit all, because who cares? Because they still get it anyway. But he gets to say, I'm not going to service these guys. Do you think even Luke gets to choose in this model? No. Luke doesn't get to blacklist anyone, because Luke will just send out to a multicast address, and that multicast address is subscribed to. So the subscribers who go into that multicast group openly now basically get a big flood of info, and Luke can sit there in his basement and grimace all he wants. And I'm sure he will. So all these things now have packets. And remember, what happens? I send, and then these other guys just comes to them. And if they miss anything, if they miss a transaction, any cast. And what do nodes do? They send transactions. So when I anycast, the one that's quickest, fastest, nearest to me is going to respond. Why? Because that's how the network works. And I don't need to design it. I don't need to do anything. I need to think where I put my node. How many people I'll be servicing, what I'll be doing, etc., is going to be based on where I put my node, how I structure my network, not any of the network design in Bitcoin. How I design